Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the
Oh,
High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community, definitely come check us out. That group was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up to that 6 and that 7-figure level. So if that's you, definitely come check us out. Now, today, I want to introduce you to one of the members of our community, Benjamin. Welcome, Benjamin.
thanks for your time.
Awesome, love it. So, Benjamin, tell us, what is it that you do?
I'm basically an expert for gaming and eSports, and I do content and brand strategy. So, for example, I work with NBC Universal on TV shows. I work with Red Bull, like several beverage companies, on sort of building their content and brand strategy. Currently working with Lamborghini, which is very interesting because they also figured out, hey, wait a second, like right now with COVID-19, everyone is self-isolating, and they have a lot of unique challenges right now because no one can go to a car dealership and actually test drive a car, which is a huge challenge for the entire automotive industry. And that's the reason why so many of these brands like BMW, Lamborghini, Mercedes-Benz, where they all dabble in gaming and esports a lot right now, actually, because they figured out we have to hook those people and get them interested in our cars and get them to virtually experience our cars. So basically, for example, Lamborghini has this unique B10 sound. And if you have a good headset or if you have even a 7.1 sound station in your home, you can get like this amazing sound. And if you have like nice pedals, a nice racing wheel, you can get this unique feeling of a Lamborghini. And they want to do it in a game, which is called Assetto Corsa. And this is kind of like their new marketing strategy. And they're sort of like dabbling in that right now. A lot of companies that do that, like McLaren is doing it. With NBC Universal, we've done, actually, it was called Universal Open Rocket League, which was very interesting. It was one of the first esports shows on national TV on NBC Sports about Rocket League. And Rocket League is basically, it's a crazy game. It's basically soccer with rocket cars. So you fly around and you catch the ball. But it's a very interesting game, I believe, for TV companies and for their audience, because very easy to understand. Everyone understands sports. If you have a goal, you know, it's very easy to sort of like translate. And yeah, that was something I've worked on. And yeah, pretty much that's a lot of companies are reaching out right now because they want like a gaming esports strategy, and I try to help them. And I mean, I think it's just amazing because I think, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. And yeah, I think it's just, everyone can just win in this industry.
Yeah, awesome. So what got you interested in this specific field?
Very early on, actually, it was interesting. Basically, right after I did my A-levels, I got recruited by a TV company in Cologne. And I almost like, I think like 3 days after my A-levels, I pretty much packed my things and moved to Cologne. My parents were like, don't you want to stay a little bit more at home? And I was like, no, I have to go in the world and sort of like explore things. And that was amazing. I was an editor, I was a host. I got kind of like involved with TV sort of and learned all of those things, obviously from like very, you know, basic thing, because I was like 19. So I had to learn a lot of like how hosting works, how you interact with an audience and these kind of things. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting because my former boss, basically right now, my boss then is the current CEO of ESL, and ESL is pretty much the biggest league in esports. So I sort of like got interested in that. And I mean, back in the days, esports wasn't that big. Like it was already an industry, but it was not that giant, right? I mean, you probably heard about these deals that are coming out right now. Ninja, for example, is like this huge celebrity that has been on national television, and he signed a deal with Microsoft, for example, over $30 million to Twitch platforms, because he was streaming on Twitch all the time, which is like a streaming platform, and now he streams on Xbox platform, which is Mixer. And yeah, I pretty much have done it like for 10 years, and yeah, I never regretted it. I mean, it's an amazing industry. I think it's like, you know, it's evolving. It's a high growth industry. I think it's amazing to see these stories. It's incredible. I've met people like Nate. He has an incredible story to tell. I remember like 10 years ago when I met him, he was just a guy, and he played Call of Duty and was really good. And you know, he worked for McDonald's actually. And then all of a sudden he won a tournament and he made $100,000. And it was like $100,000 for him was, he never has seen so much money in his life, right? And everything changed. And it's an incredible story because right now he owns a company, actually, eSports Empire, called 100 Seas with Scooter Brown, and Scooter Brown is the manager of Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's amazing. I think it's just very interesting how everything sort of comes together and people build these like crazy businesses. And that's very fascinating. I mean, this guy's like 26, he just raised 35 million, and you're like, wow. I mean, you know, this is quite epic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the online gaming, how big is it though? We've heard it's huge, but how big is it?
It's huge. It's a 150 billion dollar industry. So it's probably comparable to Hollywood. It's probably a little bit bigger because simply because it's bigger in Asia, right? Like it's a huge industry everywhere. And yeah, I mean, esports right now is a $1 billion. It's a very small part, but gaming is giant. And like I said, I mean, during COVID-19, everyone was playing like crazy. And it's very interesting to see how many people, like thousands of people, basically turned their passion into career just on Twitch. You know, they did pretty much what we do right now. They sit in front of a camera, they play a game, they talk about the experience playing this game, and a couple of people watch you, and all of a sudden it's 100, couple hundred. In maybe 6 months, it's a couple thousand. All of a sudden, we have people in the industry, when they play, 170,000 people watch them live. Like it's basically they produce their own TV show with just a webcam. It's pretty incredible what you can do these days. And yeah, that's I think that's what also very fascinating about this industry.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Because I remember growing up, I grew up on a tiny island in the Caribbean called Saint Lucia, and that's back. I don't know if you remember the Sega Genesises and the
Yeah.
Nintendo. That's what I played, but I could never imagine like sitting at home on today YouTube or something, watching someone else play a game and watching them talk about them playing the game. That is so fascinating. I would think that most individuals would just be rather playing the game, right, versus actually listen to someone playing while commenting, right?
Yeah, and I think it's very fascinating that everyone plays. I just had a couple really cool calls with. He's also actually a former Marine like you, and he told me that this is something they do a ton. They've done a ton in Iraq and Afghanistan because they have a lot of downtime there, and then they just sit down and play Call of Duty. They play some Gears of War or whatever because you want to do something cool, and this is typically a very good way for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Now, where do you fit it into this industry? Would you say is your area of expertise?
Basically, it's content and brand strategy, right? I mean, traditionally I'm a journalist. I worked in game journalism for 10 years, so I know how to write a story, how to craft a narrative, and that's very important for TV and for all of these productions because typically we have this big challenge that you basically have people coming in and they're unknown, and you have to sort of tell the hero story, right? And that's very difficult to do because obviously people only watch TV if they care about a person. So you have to elevate them from being, let's say, a normal person that no one knows to like this, which is not like a celebrity. The celebrity would probably be here, but kind of like a celebrity. So people actually care about him. And we sort of craft a lot of stories around them. And there were just very interesting things. Like with NBC, for example, we figured out that there was a guy who was one of the best players in Rocket League, and he lives on a farm with his parents, and it's nuts. Like it's a I don't know, 100-year-old house, and his parents basically built like brand new internet infrastructure and everything for him so he can play games. And it's just an amazing story because it relates so much, right? And I think this is something that resonates so much with, I think, a lot of people because I mean, at the end of the day, all of these gamers, they just come from somewhere. They're like, typically they come from just normal families, and all of a sudden they become stars. And I think it's comparable to NBA, where you have a lot of these players. They just come from very, very normal backgrounds, maybe even from poorer backgrounds or whatever. And all of a sudden they blew up and become these big celebrities, and they have cool stories to tell.
Yeah. What do you think it takes to succeed within this industry?
Well, I think it's first, I think it's a lot about reading it, a lot about understanding it, taking a lot of time to understand it because it's a very complex industry. It's complex in the sense that, for example, when we talk about basketball, you just have basketball. And in gaming, it's like esports, for example, esports consists of, you can probably say 10 big games, and every game is as big as basketball from its rule set and its fan base and stuff. So every game has its own fan base, and you have to understand them, and you have to understand the metrics, and you have to understand how can I connect with this audience. And I think it's important to understand how marketing works, how psychology works. What's interesting about esports, or what I've sort of found out, and what I can definitely always try to help clients with, it's a unique proposition actually, that typically in sports is very dynamic, right? If you think about soccer, if you think about basketball, people are running around with a ball, dribbling. In esports, you sit on a table. And the cool thing about that you sit on a table and you're stationary, is if I'm a beverage company, if I'm Coca-Cola, if I'm Red Bull, you can just take a nip of your Red Bull during a match, and it's on live television and millions of people see it. And it's literally organic marketing embedded into the stream with such a big audience, which is not possible in basketball. I mean, in basketball, it would be weird if LeBron James would be walking around the court and drinking a Red Bull. Right? You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can do it on a press conference. You can't do it in a show on court. And that's something I'm pretty much like working with companies with.
Yeah. So in essence, using the feel of, okay, like while the viewers, they're actually watching the person in the game playing, but at the same time, you could do whatever you could put stuff in there, whether it's branding, all these different things in that right there, right?
Yes, and I think what I'll also find out, which I think was a very interesting learning, and probably an interesting learning for every coach and consultant, is that you just have to be really good in what you do. You don't have to be an expert in everything your client does. And it's okay to ask questions, because I had to do that, right? When I talked with NBC, I was like, I can do all of this esports perspective things, but I have to work with your TV producers, because I don't know how to produce a TV show. I've never done that. And this is something that you just have to sort of like do. And I think it's all about like team dynamics. And yeah, I think if you want to get into this industry, like if you want to, for example, do something for TV, you have to understand how TV works, because TV is so different than all of these other platforms that we work on. And then you have to obviously understand what is the goal of them, right? Like, is it branding? Like for example, for Lamborghini, I mean, they make so much money with one car. For them, it's not about selling massive cars. For them, it's about branding, elevating their brand. And once a gamer, let's say we have this Twitch streamer, right? A lot of these Twitch streamers get rich. All of a sudden, they have to decide, do I want to buy a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or a McLaren, which is a good problem to have. And then some Lamborghini wants them to be like, hey, Lamborghini, this is a cool thing. I will buy a Lamborghini. And this is their goal. And this is something important to understand. Because obviously, I mean, a beverage company, they go over volume, right? Because it's a cheap product. I mean, most beverages, I think most energy drinks probably cost like $1, $2, $3. So they have to sell masses. If you're a car brand, you don't have to sell masses. You just sell fairly low quantities, actually, and it's way more about branding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, powerful stuff. So in essence, the next question now becomes, with what you do, what would you say is the one skill you've really mastered? Well, I know there's no such thing as master, because there's always a different level, but what's one thing you'd say you've kind of really figured out that's kind of helped you get to your level of success today?
I would say it's translating the unique USP that my client has to esports, and sort of like leveraging that, because I think that's the most value you can bring to them. And this is something they can't do themselves, right? Like, this is something they can't do, because they just understand cars, for example, or they just understand beverages, and they come from a different industry. And if you can sort of coach them and consult them in a way that they understand the culture of gaming and esports, how it translates to their product, and how they can get a ton of value out of the game industry by promoting it and investing in it, that's pretty much, I think that's probably like the most important thing. I mean, obviously it's a huge list of things you have to do, but I think this is what it distills down to, because this is where you can pretty much provide them the most value.
Love it. What about so before COVID-19, how did life look for you? And were you traveling, going to different businesses, working with them in person, versus how do things look? How was it then versus today?
Yes, it was way more in person, definitely. Yes, right now everything is virtual, because I mean we can't really meet. So that's typically also a bit easier, I would say. I mean, it's easier to fly to a client and get to know them and sort of hang out with them, because you also have to understand sort of like the company culture, and it's just a little bit more personal. It's a bit more easier. You have like a whiteboard, you can write things on it. But yeah, I think typically it's in person. It's a lot of calls, a lot of, I know, stack field or whatever, and then sort of like presenting strategies to them, and obviously working with their teams typically. And then you're typically I come in like as a lead, so to speak, like probably a little bit below an executive or something. And I'm basically in charge of their editorial and production teams, and you sort of lead them. And obviously I talk a lot with them and sort of try to find the right balance and the right product pipeline for them. Because like I said, I mean, if you work with a different crew, like a TV crew or whatever, they have so many different things they have to think about, and you have to set it all up. Like, for example, NBC Universal League, we shot that in 10 different TV studios, and every TV studio has a different setup. Every TV studio has a different way the cameras work and these kind of things. And there were so many things you have to learn, actually. Like, I didn't know, for example, that all of these studios are not standardized. They're typically different. And then sort of like how TV crews work, you have to sort of like adapt the sets and everything. And yeah, this is something you can just do on site. A lot of things obviously you can do virtual as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, and you're an independent. Would you consider yourself an independent coach consultant?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, who would you say is that ideal client for you?
I would say it's probably, yeah. I mean, typically it's corporations fairly often, actually, because I mean, they obviously have the typical an ideal client is definitely someone that wants to do something with you more long term. Because I mean, most of the projects I do with Samsung or like these bigger clients are all long term, or like 6 months, a year or something. Because I mean, obviously they need a little bit of preparation phase, and that's obviously really good business for you because it's reliable business, right? I also did a lot of work with startups, and I try to help them. But it's almost like a bit more goodwill. You want to help the industry elevate. And I work with a lot of startups right now, and I love it. I mean, these are amazing people, amazing energy, but that's typically where, for example, you get equity or you get stocks from them, so you don't get cash directly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say it's kind of like these two groups, but I would say preferably it's probably corporations because they typically have just bigger budgets. But yeah, can be also a mid-sized company. Worked actually with a couple interesting bars, for example, in Los Angeles. They wanted to do gaming, and I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I come over, and we figure something out. And it was just a cool concept. Sometimes you can just also do things that are cool. And I think you said it beautifully in one of your videos that the nice thing about once you're in the sort of like high ticket range, you can also just take on a couple of clients that probably don't even make you a ton of money, but are just like a passion project that you just want to help them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, awesome. So what drives you? What do you love about what you do here?
I think it's because every single day is different. You have to adapt to so many situations. I think it's so interesting for me to see that everything has evolved so crazy, right? I mean, like 10 years ago, people, for example, TV outlets, they were like, gaming is evil, like we don't want our kids to play Fortnite. We don't want our kids to play Counter-Strike. Right now, we live in a generation where American parents pay coaches so their kids become Fortnite pros because there's so much money in this. It's crazy. I can't tell you how many people contact me on LinkedIn and they were like, hey, how much does it cost to make my kid into the next ninja? And I said, well, I mean, he has 170,000 people watching him. That takes a while. That's not something you can just buy, unfortunately. Yeah. You can't just buy celebrity doom. But I mean, obviously this is, and that's I think that's fascinating about this industry, that it's evolving so quickly. Everything is changing. Like I just said, never thought about doing something with McLaren or Lamborghini, and all of a sudden these like brands that I personally really love, all of a sudden they knock on your door and they're like, hey, let's do something with eSports because it's really cool.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I know back in the day, my mom would used to like say, get off this game and go find something to do, all these different things. But today there's actually individuals, as you said, being paid to coach the kids on how to become the best, right? So fascinating. Yeah.
Right now I'm also building my own company, like it's called FitMe, www.fitme.net. it's a stock exchange, basically a NASDAQ for gaming, for virtual items. And that's super interesting. I'm building it with two high frequency traders. They work for big banks and big investment boutiques and stuff like that. And that's also very interesting. They're super passionate. And I think that's in general something I love about the industry. I think everyone is super passionate about what they do. And yeah, it's just never gets boring, I guess.
Yeah, awesome, love it. So the company, what's your vision now? What are you? I know you mentioned the company you're building right now. What else is on the horizon for you?
Yeah, it's probably like building this company. I mean, this can probably blew up into an empire and become really big. And we have like a huge vision around it. I think it's amazing. We talk with a lot of like nonprofits right now because we sort of want to enable people to catch their own fish. Like this whole idea of, giving people the tools and educating them how to make money with gaming so everyone can turn their passion into a career. And this is something that we already see in the industry, and I think it's beautiful. I mean, I've seen that in Venezuela, for example. Venezuela has a lot of issues right now, unfortunately. And a lot of people, they just make their income right now with gaming, and that's beautiful. And if we can allow more people to do that, that would be lovely. I think it would be lovely to, forgive me to say that, but I mean, it would be lovely, I think, to get all of those people in Bangladesh and India and stuff like that out of those fat jobs, out of this kind of like almost like slave work, and get them the opportunity to say, I love gaming, I want to do this, I can make money with FitMe, I can make money with this stock exchange thing, and this is something we really want to do. And obviously, I think help organizations. I mean, that would be lovely. So that's kind of like beside monetary goals, that's certainly I think a very interesting thing. And I mean, I do a lot of mentoring right now, like it's just interesting, like people on LinkedIn, they reach out to you and they're like 20 or something and they're ambitious and they have ideas, and I'm like, yeah, let's jump in a call, and I can help you, and I can connect you with a couple of people, because I think it's just I think it's wonderful if you come in a position where you can send the elevator down, because people send the elevator up for me and now I want to help them. And I think that's kind of like a lifetime thing. Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. I believe definitely. At some point, because I know, just like myself, right, when I first got started, it was just about me. How do I do this? How do I figure things out and get as much help as possible? But today, I definitely believe that we all get to a place where we just need to shift, right? Because it's one thing to succeed, but then when you could take everything that's kind of you spent your entire life working and figuring out and making all the mistakes, and to see how someone coming behind you could just say, hey, do this or try this or do whatever, and how that just helps them shorten their learning curve. There's like, I don't think there's anything more addictive than that, right?
It's amazing. I think it's amazing. Yeah. It's just because I don't know, like we all started with like a dream, we were all like kids, and we had like this vision, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool to work in this industry? And if you now have kids or teenagers and they have ideas and they have ambitions and they want to build a company, I think you can probably help them a lot. You can probably save them a couple of years, because I mean, this is very like startup ecosystem is super, super difficult. I know if you have been in like investment raising stuff like that, but it's very difficult. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand, because I mean, I think people always read these headlines of a company XYZ has raised $100 million, and then they build a startup and they're like, I go to the first VC and they will shower me with money. And it's typically not like it is. So, so yeah, just giving away a little bit of your skill set and sort of elevating them. I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. What's the story behind that thing? What's that on your hand? I see you have some tied around your hand. What is that?
Oh, that was like from a Maserati event, I think.
Okay, cool. Where's that event?
That was actually before Corona, and they were revealing a new car, and I was invited, and that was a really cool thing. So I kept that. I was like, this was probably I should keep it till next event.
Yeah.
Because now there's nothing going on. It's a bit of a crazy thing. I think I've never spent so much time in my office and at home and stuff like that. Right? I think we all can't wait to go out again and get on flights and travel the world again. So hopefully everything will be back to business and back to normal in a couple of months.
Yeah, love it, Benjamin. Well, hey man, thank you so much for being able to stop by here. I know you got quite a bit going on. So if someone wanted to reach out, what is the best way for them to be able to connect?
LinkedIn, Benjamin Kratsch, BenjaminKratsch. You can put it in the show notes. Probably easiest way, you can just connect with me on Skype, also Benjamin Kratsch, or benjamin.kratsch@glpmedia.com.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And guys, if you're watching this on the live or the replay, the links Benjamin just shared, they will be right either above or below the video. So you should be able to just click and be connected right to him. Well, again, Benjamin, hey, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Really appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
Well, I mean, I think, I think you always said that beautiful in your videos, just go out there and do it. Like, I think that's something I can always encourage everyone to just, if you have something to say, if you have something to teach, just go out there and offer it and, set the right price for it. I mean, that's why I personally like corporations, because obviously they have like pretty good budgets, and if you can sort of help them, but also, and once you made enough money, go out there and do good things, right? I mean, I think that's beautiful about this. I think that's beautiful about owning your own company, because all of a sudden you can hire someone, do other things, and you can yourself just do also good things. And like I said, with just charities that we have like a lot of ambitions, and I would love to help that, because I think a lot of people need help, especially after COVID. I don't know. I think the rate of people out of jobs in America has skyrocketed, in Germany and a lot of countries. So I think people will need a lot of help. So, and if we can help them in any way, with skill set, with money, with anything, with connections, I think that we should always do that.
Mm-hmm. Love it, Benjamin. Well, hey, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Awesome.
See